Hello everybody, Mannix here, going to be doing a very brief explanation video on the Auto LAWKS, L-A-W-K-S. Essentially it is a lock for the lock. Happens to be a liner lock, sometimes they put it on some frame locks of theirs, but this is the Auto LAWKS in comparison to, say, the manual locks, or just locks, however you want to describe that. CRKT eraser on the right, CRKT M2104G on the left right here, which has our Auto LAWKS, man of the hour. This is the manual locks on the right. What's the difference? Manual locks is manual, there's no spring in there, it's literally just a piece of metal that you can manually engage or disengage. It obstructs the liner lock or frame lock, whatever locking mechanism is on there. Auto LAWKS is the exact same thing, as you can see right there to the left of the tip of the liner, only it springs back into place. Again, manual locks does not have that. You can choose to use it if you wish, or not use it. Simple as that. Already have a video on that, so let's just talk more about the Auto LAWKS. Exact same thing, pretty much the same strength, everything's 110% the same thing, other than the fact that it is automatic. There's a spring in there that just constantly puts tension on it and shoves it into place. Now the advantage to this obviously is that you don't have to engage it. It does it for you when you open the knife up. So when I flick it open, the liner lock obviously engages when the blade opens up right there, when it creates the space, and then the exact same thing goes for the Auto LAWKS. It works exactly the same. There's spring tension on there, just like there's torsion tension essentially on the liner lock. That's basically how it works. So it's the exact same thing, but it just engages for you. The advantage is you don't have to engage it, of course, but the disadvantage is it's always going to engage whether you want it to or not. Now, I can't really tell you if that's a disadvantage. It just depends on what you are trying to do with your knife, what you expect of your knife, what you want to do, but it's a preference thing. It's an advantage for some people, it is a disadvantage for others. For emergency, tactical, defensive type situations, I say it's a good thing. You don't have to fumble around and scramble to engage it. If you are afraid of the knife closing on you, if you accidentally smack the spine against a wall or something in a stressful situation, then it could create shock. Shock transfers to the liner lock, disengage, blade slams shut on your hand, and you're going to be in a very, very bad, worse situation if that were to happen. The Auto LAWKS makes it so you don't have to worry about engaging it for you. Again, it's a safety mechanism for the lock itself, thus strengthen it even further. But again, it's just slightly annoying because whether you want to use it or not, let's say you wanted to use your tactical blade just to open a package or something, use your tactical blade for a conventional purpose, well, now it's just kind of redundant. You don't need that extra strength, do you? Well, now you have to disengage that before you disengage the liner lock. You have to keep it disengaged as you move the liner or frame lock out of the way. Versus a manual LAWKS, you wouldn't have to do that. Well, you could just choose not to use it at all. Make your cut, close the liner lock just like you would any other liner lock, and boom, you're done. But if it is being used, let's say you engaged it, when you normally would not be able to close the blade, you can just boop, close it, let go of it. It's toggled essentially, and then you close the liner, easy. So that's another disadvantage, that you have to keep it shut because if you let go, it's going to spring back into place. Disengage it as you hold it. I use my middle finger, thumb on the liner, and then index finger on the spine of the blade like I would any other knife. So again, let's just recap here. It depends on what you're doing. If you're using a knife just for defense and you're never going to pull it out for conventional uses or just EDC tasks, it's great actually. Yeah, it's a little bit more annoying to disengage it and close the knife, but if you're in a stressful situation like that, you probably don't care too much about closing the knife. You care more about having that locking mechanism engaged fully. We'll worry about closing it later when the stressful situation is over, right? So for tactical use, it's actually cool. I think it's awesome. But again, for all other purposes, for regular EDC, it's just kind of redundant. You kind of have a babysitter on your locking mechanism there. Again, I don't see it as a bad thing. It's overall a good thing, but it's just slightly more annoying to close the knife because you have to remember to close a second lock on top of the lock. That's all it really is. Really cool concept, cool locking mechanism for what it is, and you can take it off. Worst case scenario, if you absolutely do not like it, you can just remove it. I don't believe this would work manually if you took out the spring, because the overall function of it, the overall shape of it, I think is a little bit different. I think it would be a little bit too loose. It needs to be loose in order for the spring to move it. Other than, say, a manual LAWKS, it's a little bit more stiff. It's actually a lot more stiff, but that's so it can keep itself in place without a spring assisting it. That's pretty much it. That is the Auto LAWKS. Really cool little invention right there. So Feel free to subscribe if you want to watch more knife videos, gun videos, EDC tactical stuff, and so on. Feel free to support me on Patreon, link down in the description. Thanks so much for watching.